Her laugh glued America to the screen, while Backstage played out a darker series: infidelity, bottles, sleepless nights. Lucille Ball, the queen of comedy, once tossed from acting school as talentless, who came back to rewrite TV's playbook and make a primetime audience actually say the word pregnant. How did a girl who survived quarantine, a father's death, and a paralyzing fear of birds grow into a woman whose phobias, flops, and audacious choices sparked a cultural revolution? How did the perfect couple of Lucy and Ricky keep the ratings alive while their real marriage buckled under cheating and booze? And which weighs more in the end, the love that dragged her through hell, or the show that made her immortal? This is the story of an icon whose roaring laughter hit a scar every time, and whose jokes kept closing the very door no one walked through when she was a child. Ready to see what was waiting on the other side of the applause? Lucille was born in 1911 in New York, though plenty of later write-ups and reference books romanticized her story by listing London instead. Her early childhood was split into a stark before and after. When she was 3, her father died suddenly of typhoid fever. People said he'd caught it from contaminated ice cream. Back then, there was no real treatment, no vaccine, not even a clear care protocol, and tragedies like that were heartbreakingly common. That same day, something else happened, smaller on the surface but scarring in its own way. Lucille watched a bird get trapped, beating its wings helplessly, caught in that thin line between life and death. The image lodged in her mind and hardened into a lifelong phobia. It wasn't a mild dislike, it was panic. Trembling, the urge to bolt, anything to avoid feathers and flapping wings. After her husband's death, Lucille's mother, pregnant with her second child, was effectively cut off from the world. A quarantine notice, danger of infection, was tacked to their door. No one came inside. Even the bravest neighbors left food on the stoop and hurried away. Weeks crawled by in silence. The little girl sat near the closed door, listening for footsteps, wishing children would come to play, to talk, to laugh. No one did. Maybe that's when a promise began to form inside her. When she grew up, she'd make people laugh so they'd never turn away again. Eventually, the quarantine lifted, and her baby brother, Frederick, was born. Life seemed to find a new rhythm. Her mother remarried, and the children were sent to live with their stepfather's parents while the young couple left for work in another city. The house they landed in ran on strict Puritan rules. Lucille remembered it with a chill. A single tiny mirror you weren't supposed to gaze into for more than a couple of seconds, and a palpable lack of warmth. No running, no loud laughter, no raised voices, no frivolous books, and somehow, worst of all, no dreaming. She grew up feeling like a foreigner in her own life, every step regulated, every feeling tucked out of sight. But inside that restraint, a stage was taking shape. In the place where laughter was forbidden, the need to give it to others grew stronger. Where imagination was policed, her urge to create new worlds got tougher, more resilient. Lucille found herself thinking that one day all of this, the stern rooms, the rules, the cold, would turn into a set she could flip on its head. And eventually, she'd walk out into the light and claim what she'd been missing since childhood: her voice, her freedom, and the right to be heard. Lucille Ball found her first stage at 12 when she joined the church choir. Standing under those high ceilings, listening to her voice bounce off the stone and settle over a hushed room, She got her first real taste of what it means to be at the center of attention. That's when a vague childhood dream clicked into a concrete plan. She'd become an actress, not for fame, but for the chance to speak to an audience and feel that pin-drop silence answer back. As a teenager, she headed to New York and, around 1926, at about 15, enrolled in acting classes. She was accepted into the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, sharing a classroom, notably, with Bette Davis, another future legend. The irony? The faculty wasn't impressed with either of them. Lucille was labeled plain, not expressive enough, and told point blank she didn't have what it takes. She later said the Academy essentially pushed her out of the very pipeline that minted future stars. Funny enough, they weren't dazzled by Davis either. Yet both women went on to define their corners of American screen history. Davis in drama, Ball in comedy. New York in the late 1920s and 30s became her boot camp, equal parts survival and craft. Lucille grabbed any gig she could, modeling, posing for artists, sitting through sketchy auditions just to keep a roof over her head and a shot at the business. Like many young actresses then, she had to navigate the ugly side of casting, situations where opportunity had strings attached and talent took a back seat to compliance. She learned to thread a needle between staying afloat and keeping her self-respect. That inner line she refused to cross later became her comic signature. A heroine who takes spills and knocks, but always gets back up with pride intact. The personal cost was steep. In the 1930s, she suffered multiple miscarriages amid the grind of trying to break into show business through unreliable connections and whims of gatekeepers. And still, every time, she came back. Auditions, readings, bit parts, radio spots, like tapping out time to an invisible metronome. In 1939, she set her sights on the lead in Gone with the Wind. The competition was brutal. Vivien Leigh ultimately won. For most, that would have been the end of the road. For Lucille, it was a pivot. She leaned into radio where her voice, timing, and feel for the beat suddenly landed with full force. Radio became her launchpad. The very qualities casting directors once dismissed, clean diction, musical phrasing, a knack for playing the silence, turned into her superpowers. But television gave her liftoff. Early TV craved faces with live wire energy, and Ball brought it every day. Her on-screen persona, a paradox of discipline and fearlessness, crystallized into a phenomenon. America fell for Lucy, the woman people had underestimated forever, who could make anyone laugh. Teens, homemakers, factory workers, office clerks. Lucille Ball married Cuban bandleader Desi Arnaz in 1940, a pairing of two strikingly different personalities. She was an ambitious, hard-charging actress hustling her way through radio and film. He was a charismatic Cuban immigrant who'd started out cleaning canary cages and worked his way up to a popular band leader, bringing Latin rhythms to American stages. Their relationship was fiery, full of contrasts and cultural hurdles, but they were genuinely happy. And 9 years into the marriage, they hit the breakthrough that made them household names. I Love Lucy. The idea for I Love Lucy took shape in 1949 when Lucille was already a well-known radio star. Her show My Favorite Husband was a hit, and CBS wanted to turn it into a TV series. Lucille agreed, on one non-negotiable condition. Her real-life husband, Desi Arnaz, had to play her on-screen spouse. CBS balked at first, Executives worried mainstream audiences wouldn't buy a mixed marriage between a red-haired American comedian and a Latin band leader. Lucille held her ground. To prove they worked as a team, she and Desi put together a vaudeville act, a touring bundle of music, gags, and sketches, and took it on the road. The show killed. Crowds loved them, and the success convinced the network that Lucy and Desi could win over viewers together. I Love Lucy premiered in 1951 and was an instant smash, setting new standards for the medium. It pioneered the multi-camera sitcom shot in front of a live studio audience, giving the comedy a crisp pace and the laughter a real, contagious energy. A lot of the storylines came straight from their own lives. When Lucille became pregnant in real life, the pregnancy was written into the show. Nearly unheard of back then. You couldn't even say pregnant on air. They used the coy euphemism expecting. I Love Lucy wasn't just a TV show. It was a cultural phenomenon. It put a temporary patch on a complicated marriage, turned Lucy and Desi into television's first true superstars, and cemented Lucille Ball's legacy as the queen of American television. On screen, they looked like a perfect match, two people in love, playful, effortless together. Real life was messier. Early on, sure, it felt that way, but once fame hit, the seams started to split. Desi struggled with alcohol and was unfaithful, including with women in the sex industry. Some of his binges played out in public. Photographers caught him, and the studio had to spend time and money buying up photos and smothering scandals. Before long, they were basically only seeing each other at work, on set, playing a married couple. Lucille held on for nearly a decade, hoping the show and the kids would keep them together. In the end, they divorced in 1960. Later, she put it bluntly, "We were everything except Lucy and Ricky Ricardo. Success led us to hell." Around that time, she herself slipped into drinking, stimulants, and heavy smoking. She grew anxious, volatile, prone to blow-ups. Eventually, by her own account, she saw the writing on the wall. It was time to separate. She knew it would mean a tabloid circus and that their two children would grow up without an intact home. But better to be on her own than keep breaking down in place. They divorced, but didn't cut ties. A common misconception is that their legendary show, I Love Lucy, ended because of the divorce. In reality, the series wrapped in 1957, 3 years before they officially split in 1960. After I Love Lucy ended, they kept working together, launching the Lucy-Desi Comedy Hour, which ran from 1957 to 1960. It functioned as a kind of continuation, specials and hour-long TV features where they still co-starred, even as their personal lives moved on to parallel tracks. Even though their marriage didn't last, both of them kept building impressive careers. Lucille remained one of TV's most recognizable and beloved comic actresses, a first-frame icon with flawless timing who helped set the standard for sitcoms for decades. Desi, with his rare mix of musical talent and producer savvy, didn't fade from the scene either. He kept performing, recording, and creating projects, contributing to the industry as a hands-on organizer and television producer. Their kids, Lucy Arnaz and Desi Arnaz Jr., grew up backstage, surrounded by show business, and naturally chose creative careers of their own. They've never sugarcoated how tough things got for their parents, but they worked hard to keep the family close. Over the years, they've done a lot to preserve and extend their parents' legacy, supporting restorations, overseeing archives, re-releases, and speaking publicly about the enduring impact of the show that made their family part of American cultural history. Desi Arnaz passed away in 1986 from cancer, and 3 years later, in 1989, Lucille Ball died of a stroke. But their screen lives outlasted their lifetimes. I Love Lucy is still watched and rewatched by new viewers discovering a classic and by longtime fans for whom it's a comfort watch. Thanks to Lucille's singular comic style, her physical comedy, razor-sharp timing, and undeniable charm, paired with the duo's natural chemistry, the series remains a benchmark for smart, durable TV comedy. As for their private lives, the fights, the reconciliations, the rough patches, there's no shortage of tell-all books and tabloid lore. Honestly, what matters most now is what's on the screen. He's the steady, sensible counterweight. She's the whirlwind, forever in over her head and somehow landing on her feet. Together, they're flat-out funny. That's how they deserve to be remembered. Do you remember the show? Have you watched whole runs or just favorite episodes? If you turned it on today, do you think the magic would still land? The contagious laughter, the clean setups, the unmistakable chemistry? Curious what you think. Share your take. Thank you for watching to the end. If you liked it, put a like, subscribe, and don't forget to click on the bell not to miss new videos. And there are more amazing stories to come. Take care of yourself and your loved ones.